Oh, hi, Kirsty here from Pilates with Kirsty. I'm just recording this video quickly because yesterday I was working at our property and I lifted some things that I shouldn't, and I ended up coming home with a pretty sore back. Um, but I came back and straight away the first thing I did was some stretching, and it eased the pain straight away. And then today I've woken up completely fine. I've been back at the farm working again, lifting heavy things, and it's totally fine. So if you've got ongoing back problems, I'm not saying that you can solve it with one 10-minute sort of a series of stretches, but at least you might be able to get a little bit of relief, especially if you do it quite frequently with some stretching. So that in combination, so some stretches like I'm about to show you, in combination with some strengthening as well of the muscles that support the back. First of all, the pelvic floor, your TA, which is the deep transabdominal muscle that wraps around and supports your spine, and of course other parts of your body as well, would definitely be able to help ease some back pain if it is ongoing. So get in touch if you do need some help with that. But anyway, just if you happen to trigger a sore back, these are some exercises that I would recommend doing, and they're the ones that I did last night. So yeah, join me. So first of all, the first thing I did was I came home and I just did a little back extension. So I'm going to demonstrate them all. So I started off, put this in for you. I started off by putting my hands onto my bottom, as you can see, and my feet are the same distance apart as my hip socket joint. So straight on like this. Put my hands onto my bottom, and then I just gently push forward for a back extension. Not all the way, just a little bit. And then coming back up to standing. And pushing forward again. And back up to standing. And each time you go, you want to push a little bit further to extend the back further. Now, the reason we do this first is in case you have any disc bulges or any little issues that are unilaterals, just on one side in the lower back, so that we can pop those back in, hopefully, to where they're supposed to go before we do any flexion going the other direction, which if we haven't put them back in, they're likely to end up in trouble. Once you've done a few of these and you've got to your maximum reach, then you're going to do the opposite and you're going to roll down. Now, I might put the camera up so you can see my back more than my legs. What you're going for here is, first of all, tucking the chin to your chest, putting the hands onto the front of the thighs. And what you're aiming to do is gently roll down, keeping the hands on the legs and rolling down to touch your toes or as close as you can get. Now, the idea is that your back curves rather than just hinging at the hips. You want to really curve the back down. And the best way I find to make that happen is to imagine my hand is on your belly button. And as you roll down, I'm pushing that belly button up so that the back is curving the whole time. So you're rolling down, roll, 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 until you can almost hit your toes or touch them or touch the floor, whatever you can reach. And from here, rolling back up. Now, if you've just hurt your back, you might not be able to do that. You might only get to here, even if you're normally flexible. So from here, if you're stuck, I would recommend rocking up and down a few times and then trying to continue. If you still can't, rock up and down and then just curling back up. And each time you curl down, you're aiming to get a little bit further, open up the back. Now, when you get to the top, you might want to roll the shoulders back a couple of times. And even forward as well, because they might be tight. And then we'll go again. So hands on the front of the legs, dropping the chin to chest and rolling down. Remember, if you're sticking in a spot, you just want to rock up and down there. And then see if you can continue. And then if you have to rock up and down again, that's okay. And then rolling down. And eventually, hopefully, you can get to your toes. At this point, I'm going to show you down a bit more. At this point, what you're hoping to do is touch the floor with your hands. Now, if you can't, without bending your knees, that's okay. Just bend the knees, put the hands flat on the floor, and what we're doing is keeping, let's start with the left. So the left hand is staying on the floor, and the left foot, or both feet actually, but the left leg is straightening.
So left hand stays on the floor. Right hand comes up towards the ceiling and you're straightening just the left leg. Looking up at the hands. Coming back down and bending the knees again. Let's swap sides. So straightening the right leg, the right hand stays on the ground. Taking the right arm sits on the ground. Taking the left hand to the ceiling and looking up at the thumb. Coming back down. You'll do that a couple of times on each side. If it's too much, you can just do this. Bend the knees, straighten the knees. Bend the knees, straighten the knees. We're just stretching the hamstrings. They're connected to your glutes. Glutes are obviously connected to your back and helping your back. So sometimes this can help ease a little bit of pressure on the lower back. Alright, from here, you're going to walk down so that you're on your hands and knees. Now the most important part here is going to be that you're starting in a really nice position. So you want your wrists below your shoulders, your hips above your hips above your knees, and your feet are the same distance apart as your knees. You don't want your feet to be kissing or out too far. Same distance as your knees. From here we're doing cat camel, cat cow, whatever you want to call it. So imagine my hand is on your, well, first of all, before we start, we want our back to be nice and supported. So you're trying to connect the belly button to the spine. Take a nice inhale to prepare, and on your exhale, my hand is on your belly button and you're arching the back up and you're looking down at the knees. Inhale, coming back to center. Again, the belly button is still connected to the spine. Exhale, this time you're taking the belly button to the floor and looking up at the ceiling. Coming back to neutral, so you're tucking that pelvis underneath. Your back is nice and flat, the belly button is connected to the spine, and then you're pushing up into the arch. My hands on your belly button, pushing up, looking at the knees. Back to neutral, make sure the belly button is still connected to the spine, and then dropping the lower back and looking up to the ceiling. From here, you'll press back into, coming back into your neutral first, and then you'll press back into a child's pose. Now, some people find it easier if you open the knees a bit first, and then you're sitting down onto your heels, and you're taking your arms out along the mat so that the forehead can rest there. From here, you're trying really hard to keep the bottom connected to the heels at the same time as walking the hands out in front. Really feel a nice stretch through the entire back. Coming back up after you've held that for about 30 seconds. And then what you're going to do is a glute stretch. So, stay on your hands and knees, take one leg and cross it the other one. So you have I've got my right heel in front of my left knee. From here we're going down onto elbows, and then the other leg, the straight one, which is my left, is going out further behind me so that I can bring my hips closer to the ground. From here, you're walking your elbows in front of your knee, your bent knee. So you're walking around this way, and then you're pushing forward, but trying to keep the opposite hip on the ground as well. Don't allow that hip to come up. You should feel a deep stretch through the glute there and almost into the piriformis as well. After you've held it for about 40 seconds, you're going to walk back to the center and then switch legs. So you might find it easier to come up onto your 4 points first, take the other leg out, cross the leg, whichever way you find easiest to get into this stretch is fine. Coming back onto the elbows and then walking the hands around. Again, you're holding it for around 40 seconds. And after you've done that, you'll undo yourself from the stretch nice and slow and controlled and come up out of it. If you need to, one extra stretch you can do here is rolling onto your back now. Or doing this on a chair works really well as well. But we'll do it on the back. So you're laying on your back, your knees are gently bent. Before you begin, you want to find your pelvic neutral, as always in Pilates. If you haven't done a class with me, what we're doing is putting your hands into a triangle, your thumbs at the top, and your fingertips are on your pubic bone. From here, you're tilting the pelvis forward and back as if your fingertips are 6 o'clock. Your thumb is 12, and we're going 12 o'clock, 6 o'clock, rotating back, tilting back. So real tilt to the pelvis. My legs aren't moving. It's just the pelvis. And once you're neutral, that means that your fingertips and your thumbs are level with each other. So the triangle between your hands is flat. You could put a champagne flute there and it will not spill. Then you're going to do side to side as well. So you're going to pretend that one side is 3 o'clock and the other is 9. And you're going 3 o'clock, tilting the hips down, back to center, 9 o'clock, back to center. My legs aren't moving. It's a small movement. You're trying really hard to drop each hip, the hip to one side. And what we're doing here is stretching the pelvic floor muscle, which is really going to help with strengthening it and therefore supporting your back. And as well as that, we're really learning to isolate the movement of the hips and the pelvis so that we have more stability through that region, which really helps the lower back pain. All right, once you've done that for a little while, you're in your neutral. You're taking one leg up and bending it over so that the heel, the outside of the ankle, is on the outside of the opposite knee. And from there, you're interlocking your fingers on the knee and you're pulling that knee in towards your chest and across at the same time. So it's almost like you're going under the armpit. Now be really careful that this opposite hip isn't rolling over. You have to fight it. So this hip pulls towards the floor and this knee gets pulled across at the same time. So you kind of push, pull with those two anchors until you're getting a deep stretch through here, which is your piriformis, which often, if that's tight, can lead to a sensation that feels like sciatica pain. So we're trying to make sure that we're covering all the possibilities of your lower back pain. Once you've held that for about 40 seconds, if it's too much, just pull out of it and then come back again. But after 40 seconds, you're going to switch legs. So before you lift the other leg, make sure you're in your neutral again with the pelvis. And then taking the leg up and over, so the ankle's on the outside of the knee, holding onto the knee, the bent knee, and now pulling that leg toward the armpit. So you're really pulling towards the chest, but then also crossways as well. And again, make sure that that hip, that same side, isn't coming up off the mat. So you have to push it back and then pull the leg. Push it back, pull the leg. You might need to have a play with how to get into this spot by just circling your knee a bit. But once you find it, you should feel that really deep stretch to the piriformis. And trust me, it will do you wonders if you do it regularly, especially if you're an avid hiker. And then when you're done, you can slow and control come out of it. And then that's all I wanted to show you today. You might also need to do a hip flexor stretch, but that's another series that I'll show another time, or also a pelvic, more pelvic rotation. But that's also something that we cover in class and probably don't have time to show you today. But yeah, I just wanted to show you those few stretches that might help ease your lower back pain. And like I said at the start, if you are interested in learning more about this kind of thing, if you do have ongoing issues with your back, your knees, your ankles, shoulders, basically any joints, or just any pain, especially if you're out hiking, please get in touch and we can have a chat and see if Pilates might be a good fit for you. Anyway, thanks for joining me today and hopefully it helps. Bye.